When did all my friends become so loud? We act like reality shows, probably 'cause reality blows. When did all my friends become so loud? We traded our boring lives for MTV storylines. Why? Recently he said that she said that we said some shit that you wouldn't believe. Recently he said that she said that we said that he said some shit about me. So we're caught up in drama. Everybody's talking. We're caught up in problems. Everybody's talking. Hold up, can we make it stop? Hold up, but I'm so caught up in drama. Everybody's talking now. When did all our problems get so small? We break up with lovers and friends, make love to the rumors instead. Maybe we're addicted to it all. The drama is dangerous, but it's so exciting to us. Recently he said that she said that we said some shit that you wouldn't believe. Recently he said that she said that we said that he said some shit about me. So we're caught up in drama. Everybody's talking. We're caught up in problems. Everybody's talking. Hold up, can we make it stop? Hold up, but I'm so caught up in drama. Everybody's talking now. When did my friends get so loud? When did my friends get so loud? When did my friends get so loud? Oh, when did my friends get loud? Recently he said that she said that we said some shit that you wouldn't believe. Recently he said that she said that we said that he said some shit about me. So we're caught up in drama. Everybody's talking. We're caught up in problems. Everybody's talking. Hold up, can we make it stop? Hold up, but I'm so caught up in drama. Everybody's talking now. Everybody's talking.
So let's get into that.
Here's the thing about Medicaid.
Stop this right here. Stop that. Let's talk about Peter Scully, Viny's associate, Viny's friend, since we're all being tied in with what our friends or family might do criminally. That must mean we had a part in it somehow. So let's talk about Peter Scully. Peter Scully was a business associate of Viny's who took his $250,000 and ran with it. But let's talk about him a little bit. Let's see, why would Viny G trust this man with $250,000? Let's take a look. How could they be so close that he would trust him with that much money? First, let's talk about him. Let me just take 20 minutes and watch this. I don't know if this is a 60 minutes clip or not, but take 20 minutes of your time and just watch this and think of him and Viny out drinking and partying. He's going to say he didn't know him. He's going to say he didn't know him like that, but he gave him $250,000.
Hi, my name is Dr. Catherine Hughes from Crime Psych. Today's psychological analysis is on Peter Scully. Many thanks to Louis Cypher, who suggested this case for an analysis today. There are a few weeks gap between this video and the last video that I did. And that's because this was another case that was incredibly difficult to cover. It was incredibly difficult to research because of the type of offences that were carried out during it. Today's video comes with an extreme warning. This is a very disturbing case, and although I don't really go into any great details about the crime, it is still extreme. I'm going to be talking about the sexual abuse of babies and very young children. Some of you may want to avoid this video altogether. Brian, this means you. Don't watch this one, buddy.
I already saw it.
As always, this isn't a diagnosis. It's an informed opinion about the psychology of the offender. If you have seen any of my videos before, you'll know that I like to look at the background and the upbringing of the offender to see if there are any traumatic events or key events that might indicate where their behaviour stemmed from. This is one of those rare cases where there isn't really much available information about his childhood and his upbringing. Peter Scully was born in 1963 in Melbourne in Australia.
That's where
He was raised in Nair Warren, which is a Melbourne suburb, and is reported to have had a rather normal childhood. He attended a local high school where he participated in several sports, but it has been reported that Peter had some problems finding a girlfriend during his teenage years. He spent most of his free time outside the house, so his parents didn't really know much about their son, but they preferred him being outdoors than inside the house. And that can be a fairly common thing. Many teenage boys prefer to spend a lot of time outside of their houses and don't always reveal a lot of themselves to their parents. However, it's been reported that he started scamming other children while he was in high school, and he made enough money to buy drugs and alcohol for himself. And if this was never challenged, then it would have been allowed to develop and to grow. He found independence in the money that he was able to make, and it seems as though it was fairly easy for him to apply various scams to get money out of people. This was to be the very first building blocks which led him onto his crimes that I'm going to talk about. He claims that he was abused by a priest as a child. However, he did only claim that after he'd been arrested. And so there is quite a high probability of that being a false claim. I'll come back to that a little bit later. He was, all in all, a seemingly normal young man who went on to marry and had 2 children himself. However, he then got himself involved in a real estate scheme that targeted home buyers who had some credit problems and offered leases to own schemes. He siphoned money off from that and put some of it back into keeping that scheme going and siphoned some of it off. Scully and a business partner siphoned off $1.8 million of investors' money. As a result of that, the Australian Securities and Investment Commission started an investigation into him in 2009.
In which they raided
a former
Viny's
business
house.
Associate described Peter Scully as being dodgy and that he wasn't really surprised about what Scully went on to do. He said the signs were always there for him, but it's gone to a dark place. Peter Scully's crimes were all about making financial gains. He was driven by money and he went to great lengths to scam people out of money. He had very little empathy for those that he scammed out of money and took. He saw his own wealth as much more important than staying within the law. That is a fairly narcissistic trait. Narcissists see their own needs as much more important than anybody else's. Scully left his wife, and rumours of his wealth and sexual deviancy then began to emerge.
Same thing happened
If
to
he
Viny.
is a narcissist, he would have already cheated on his wife several times before they'd split up. Whilst living in Melbourne, he's reported to have operated an unlicensed online escort service in which he offered his Filipino girlfriend out as a sex worker. He did that via a website that was used solely for him to advertise his girlfriend, Ling. Online forum discussed the services that they received from her. One of them wrote, apparently, anything goes for this girl for the right price. One former associate recalled a distressing scene when Scully locked Ling out completely naked and she had to go into offices nearby to be let in. Now, what we see here is that he starts to move from real estate to make money into using a human to make money for him. From a psychological perspective, this is quite an important step in him being able to go on and to commit more crimes against other people. He's now using his girlfriend as a commodity. He's also opened up the relationship to include other people. What he found was that he was able to make his girlfriend do what he asked and to make money for him. And he was able to collect money from clients for these services. Psychologically, then, she became an object that he could sell. He treated her very, very poorly, presumably to scare her into doing what he wanted her to do. Plus, she was very young, which made it easier for him to manipulate her. Again, this sexual deviancy is a narcissistic trait. He gives no value to this young girlfriend, besides having the ability to make him money. If he was a narcissist, he would have love-bombed her. He would have made her feel like she was the most important person in the world at first. And after that initial phase, he would have then begun to mistreat her. Scully fled to the Philippines before he could be charged with 117 fraud and deception offences. Once he was in the Philippines, he started to operate an international child sexual abuse ring. He offered out pay-per-view video streams of children being tortured and sexually abused on a dark website called No Limits Fun, or otherwise known as NLF. The Philippines has emerged as a global hotspot for child sexual exploitation, and it is a fairly poor country. They do have laws put in place, but their legal system takes such a long time to prosecute, and it is uneven across the country. The wide use of English, the available of internet connections and international cash transfer systems have all combined with this long entrenched poverty and wide access to vulnerable children to allow many people to be abused in the Philippines. Investigations have found that 64% of online sexual child abuse cases in the Philippines were actually initiated by foreign authorities, largely because of a lack of capability to detect the live-streamed abuse. This abuse was often only uncovered when foreign law enforcers accost an offender abroad. Cases of online child sexual exploitation have very sadly increased in recent years, with parents agreeing to send their own children to have them victimized so that they could receive money. Police data shows that the Philippines is one of the top 10 producers of child pornography in the world. And it's a place where predators have exploited this poverty and turned these children into commodities. Being a wealthy man in the Philippines made Peter Scully an attractive option for people. It's of little surprise that he had two Filipino girlfriends, Alvarez and Margallo. And he also had other female acquaintances helping him to get children for these videos. Peter Scully and these women enticed the children to various houses by offering the parents money or promising them some work or some education. Peter Scully is a predator. He doesn't feel anything for these children or their parents. They're just another way for him to make money. He targeted the Philippines because he knew that you could easily target people there. He'd already started to push the boundaries of sexual deviancy whilst he was in Australia. And once he was in the Philippines, he found it very easy to get children and to recruit others to get children for him. There is a difference between paedophiles and child sex offenders. Not all paedophiles are child sex offenders, and not all child sex offenders are paedophiles. Paedophiles are individuals who preferentially or are solely sexually attracted to prepubescent children, generally of age 13 or less. A person can be a paedophile and be sexually attracted to children without ever acting on those urges. It's common for those who sexually abuse children to be automatically labelled a paedophile, but that isn't strictly correct. Some people who sexually abuse children are not sexually attracted to the children at all. Sometimes the sexual abuse of a child occurs because the opportunity presents itself and can be much more about power, control, and domination rather than sexual satisfaction. Some paedophiles don't even realise what they're doing is wrong. They genuinely believe that they're showing these children love in their mind. Therefore, I don't believe that Scully is a paedophile. He is a child sex offender. I don't believe that he was ever sexually attracted to children. I believe he saw them more as a commodity or nothing more than an object that he could just make money off. Again, this shows a fairly common trait of narcissists. They put their own needs and wants first, and then they'll do whatever is necessary to get others to get what they want. He made thousands of dollars selling these videos on the dark web. His website gave him a global audience that were willing to pay for each video. He had an abundance of victims that he could access to create these vile videos. The most depraved video was called Daisy's Destruction. In it, Scully urges his 19-year-old girlfriend, Morgallo, to carry out some of the most severe physical abuse. The three main victims were Liza, who was aged 12, Cindy, who was aged 11, and Daisy, who was aged just 18 months. The video shows Daisy being hung upside down by her legs, being tortured and raped by Scully and his two girlfriends. The video has been labelled the worst that the internet has to offer, and he sold it for $10,000 per view. Morgallo, that girlfriend, was trafficked herself as a child. There could be a few psychological mechanisms that underlie her involvement in this. First of all, she could have thought that this type of behaviour was normal. She had done it herself when she was a child, and she'd seen it happen to so many others while she was growing up. She could have been so scared of Scully that she did whatever he asked. Or she could have felt resentful that she was subjected to abuse as a child and takes this anger and resentment out on other young children. Matthew Graham, who was also an Australian, ran a series of child pornography sites known as Hurtcore. Hurtcore is an extreme form of pornography focusing on the non-simulated hardcore affliction of pain, torture, humiliation, which is mainly on children, including toddlers. He published parts of that video, Daisy's Destruction, in an attempt to get more traffic to his sites. As a result of the widespread talk that was happening on the dark web then, that video gained attention from some law enforcement. The Dutch National Child Exploitation Team was the first to open up an investigation with the goal of locating some of these victims. In the meantime, more children were raped and abused. Scully and a girlfriend coaxed two young girls into his house with the promise of food. He gave them alcohol, and then he forced them to perform sex acts on each other, which he then photographed and filmed. With Alvira's assistance, Scully also sexually abused two cousins that were held in his house. The girls were kept in chained dog collars, and after an escape attempt, they were made to dig their own graves. Scully is really flexing his power at this stage. In his mind, he was successful and he was earning good money, and there were no consequences for his behaviour, and so it just carried on escalating. After 5 days of abuse, Alvarez took pity on the cousins and she released them, letting them escape. The cousins went to police, Alvarez was arrested, and Scully went on the run after that. Both girlfriends, Alvarez and Morgallo, also abused children in Scully's videos. Because they were both so young themselves, they would have been groomed by Scully to become his accomplices. One of them had been trafficked herself, as I've just said, and the other was a former child prostitute. There had to be an element of dysfunctional background with these girls, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to groom them to do what they did. Don't get me wrong at all. I am not saying that these women were simply victims who couldn't help it. But when we consider their childhood trauma, it can start to go part way to explaining why they offended and why they joined in with this sexual abuse. Scully was arrested in 2015 after 2 teenage girls were found naked, chained in the bedroom of an apartment that he rented. An NBI official said the skeleton of a girl Scully allegedly killed in 2013, when she was 12 years old, was dug up in February 2015. And that was found in the kitchen of an apartment that he'd rented. At that time, the police allowed Morgallo to go free because at the time of Scully's arrest, they had no information, they hadn't gathered any evidence against her. However, it was later discovered that she was the masked and naked woman shown in the Daisy's Destruction video. After Scully's arrest, Morgallo continued the illegal business and she roamed around all the different provinces looking for potential victims. Morgallo admitted that she'd never lost contact with Scully when he was arrested in 2015, and she was on the run from the police and still in contact with him. Investigators managed to uncover the fates of the 3 primary victims in Daisy's Destruction video. Liza was found to be alive, as was young Daisy, though her treatment had been so vicious that she has lasting physical injuries. 11-year-old Cindy had been murdered by Scully. Before being strangled to death with a rope, the girl was subjected to bouts of rape and torture and was made to dig her own grave. According to Morgallo, Scully videotaped himself killing Cindy. Scully faced a total of 75 charges. He was on trial with others who assisted in the production of this pornography, including 4 other men. His crimes were deemed so severe that some prosecutors supported the reintroduction of the death penalty as a punishment for Scully. And that was despite capital punishment being abolished in the Philippines since 2006. I mentioned earlier that Scully claimed that he was sexually abused by a priest as a child. I told you that he'd only said that after his arrest. I believe that he was just doing this to try to make himself look more like a victim. During the hearing, he laughed and he joked with those he was co-accused with. He's done an interview for 60 minutes, which is online, and I've left a link to it in the video description. In this video, he doesn't show any remorse. He tells the interviewer that he plans to release a journal that addresses some of her questions. But to date, there is no journal. I suspect he's simply using this as a way to keep some power, keeping the focus on him. He knows that people want answers. The interviewer asks him why he hates women, and he said it will be in the journal. He doesn't say that he doesn't hate women, just that he'll address it all in the journal. He says that he doesn't really know why he did it. That's a lie. He knows it was all about using these people as a way to make him money. He was asked at what point he felt remorse. Was it at the time of the rapes? Was it at the time when he was arrested? Or was it now as he's being interviewed? And he laughs at that question and he says, that's a really good question. I don't believe that he does actually feel any remorse, which is now heading towards psychopathic traits. I believe that he only says that he's sorry because he was captured. I don't believe that his girlfriend feels any remorse either. After Scully's arrest, Morgallo continued the illegal business. Police claim that they found the 23-year-old Filipino masquerading as somebody called Shannon, who was the wife of a French software millionaire, she claimed. Morgallo had been living in some kind of a palatial condominium. While police had 16 outstanding warrants against her, she continued to use this money to live a lavish lifestyle. As I said, authorities in the Philippines were considering bringing back the death penalty because these crimes were so depraved. Ultimately, they didn't reinstate it. Scully was sentenced to life in prison, which is a shame, really. He should have had a bullet put in his head. If you do want to learn more about offender profiling or criminal psychology, take a look at my website. There are lots of online courses, blogs, vlogs, ebooks on my website. If you found this video interesting, please consider support me on Patreon so that I can carry on doing the work that I do. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. Take care. Bye for now.
Imagine that. Imagine that. How am I doing, Viny? How am I doing? Am I making your hemorrhoids flare up, Viny? Everybody can look up Peter Scully. Cheers. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Remember, just smile and wave, baby. Smile and wave.